I'm talking with Clayton Smith, the strength coach for the Nanaimo Clippers. And Clayton, this season with this current group of Nanaimo Clippers, do you ever compare this group to other groups in the past in terms of fitness? Do you notice anything about this group that's kind of even unique in that way?
Yeah, Dan, we do. I don't really compare too much from year to year in terms of numbers and strength. But overall this year, starting with day one back in August, definitely a smaller group at least to start off the season, which is okay. It's presents a different outlook of training and a different outlook of what we need to work on, their strengths and their weaknesses. So this year's team definitely in terms of speed and agility is significantly higher. So I think as a good performance coach, you need to kind of tap into that and realize, okay, maybe this group isn't necessarily as strong in the gym as maybe years in the past, but their agility, their strength, their speed, all that is at par. So just knowing to, dip into that system and not, get tied up too much on what they're benching or what they're squatting or what they're deadlifting is an important aspect.
Take me through a typical week for you and the players in terms of what you're doing with them, but also what you want them doing on your own as well. And we're talking about things off the ice here in the gym, but maybe some other things at home that you might have them doing as well.
Okay, yeah. So a typical week, Mike and I sit down middle of summer, usually June and July, and kind of pan out a training schedule. So a typical week generally looks like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the guys are in the gym. We train, everybody's here, training starts at 9 o'clock, and they're typically here about 8:50 doing their soft tissue work and their mobility work. So if they have games on a Friday, typically Monday is going to be a lower body day. And again, I think the key thing with successful in-season training is having a open line of communication between all staff and, knowing where they were the week before and where they're playing the week coming up, understanding, different physiological stresses in their life, whether that's school, whether that's travel, whether that's sleep, whether that's nutrition. So depending on all those different factors, generally Monday is a pretty tough day in terms of a lower body strength day. Moving forward to Tuesday, Tuesday is more of a upper body, full body strength day. And then moving to Wednesday, our Wednesday routine is quite a bit lower in terms of volume, so that's your sets and reps. But definitely a higher in intensity in terms of power. So we're doing a lot of more like powerlifting, plyo jumps, just kind of getting the guys amped up from a central nervous system standpoint for the games on the weekend. And in terms of, stuff that, the athlete should be doing at home, nutrition, sleep, and hydration are the key things. So making sure that, they're eating healthy, lots of fats in their diets, lots of proteins, lots of carbs. And that also kind of ties in with our, athlete monitoring. So every day we're monitoring the athlete's weights, monitoring how they're feeling. Every day they coming in, 10 minutes early. Hey, how's the body doing? And us as coaches, we kind of get a pretty good understanding of right away, like, the body language and how they answer. Yeah, my body's feeling good or I'm feeling tired. So that, and you kind of note that and, make sure that you're not pushing the guys too far because the travel schedule is pretty significant in the BCHL. They're traveling the interior and, back on Sunday night and training Monday morning. So just knowing from a physiological standpoint where the athletes are at the beginning of the week is an indicator of how far you can push them on during the week.
You and Mike have worked together for a few seasons now. How have you evolved the program? Because we're getting new information and the game is changing. You mentioned, too, this might be a faster, more agile team, but maybe not a team that is going to be as beefy and maybe be as physically strong. So how do you and Mike evolve what you're doing based on such a large number of factors every year?
Yeah, that's a good point, Dan. Like I said from the beginning, just knowing, understanding your team and not, trying to train them like a football team. So dipping into their strengths, definitely working a lot of agility and, knowing that this is an agile group and that they can move quickly. And our main objective in here is, not to slow them down, not to, throw a whole bunch of weight on the bar and, train them to be slow. It's about dipping into, their strengths and also working a little bit of weaknesses too, right? So if, we got a guy that, can only squat, 185 or, deadlift 200 pounds, at that age, you kind of, you got to also work on their weaknesses from an injury standpoint as well. So just knowing, what should this team look like? What should they, be working on? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And kind of just tying into that.
How do you approach a guy, for example, like a Taylor Carl, differently than you approach a guy like a Matt Kowalski? Because I'm imagining that those two players would probably have different instructions and a different program from you.
Yeah, definitely. That's a type A and a type B. So yeah, definitely two different athletes. Generally speaking, I mean, from a gym standpoint, our main objective is to, keep these kids healthy, right? To keep them mobile. So I would say probably about, upwards of even up to a half of our hour and 15-minute sessions are spent on, making sure, muscles are long and muscles are mobile. Hockey's one of those, you know, sports that draw on a lot of like low intensity strength and power. So in the gym, we're doing a lot more, higher intensities, a little bit more weight, and just focusing on, unloading hip flexor junction, so your iliacus, psoas, rec fem, your posterior chain, hamstring, adductors, and glute medius. So from a training standpoint, those are kind of our number one objectives. Make sure they're healthy, make sure they're mobile. And then from there, we kind of look at each athlete. Okay, so Taylor, big, strong athlete. We usually at the beginning of the day, we have the weights on the bar, what we should be expecting each athlete to go to. So with somebody like Kowalski, maybe they'll go with group 2, who's doing a little bit lighter but a little bit more power, whereas Taylor's, more of a physical presence, so, getting a little bit more intensity on the bar. So the programs are fairly similar from athlete A to athlete B, but their specific intensities and tempo of lifts are slightly different.
This group of the Nanaimo Clippers is very much the same as the last group and the group before. Statistically, they play their best in the third period. And I would think as a strength and conditioning coach that you look at that and get a big smile on your face because it says something about their conditioning level being greater than their opponents.
Yeah, totally. I think that's something that's, that can definitely be trained, and that's something that we work on. Again, I'll go back to kind of talking about the specific demands of hockey, because I feel in order to do our job successfully, we have to know what the hockey game pulls on. So like I was saying about the, low intensity strength and power, hockey from an energy standpoint draws a lot of, anaerobic. So a lot of, short sprint, quick rest. So for us, we do a lot of aerobic training because, that anaerobic short sprint activity should definitely be loaded a lot, during practice and during games. So it's a specific that we don't really need to train for too much in the gym. So from, I guess you could call it almost a little bit like anti-sport specific training during the in-season, we want to make sure that we focus on a lot of aerobic, so longer endurance, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So at the mostly at the end of our sessions, we'll go out. If it's a nice day, we'll go for a little jog around the gym and just kind of flush out the legs while we're working, that VO2 max power and that, aerobic metabolism, just because it's not stressed enough in season. Recovery and nutrition are actually really aerobically structured in nature too as well. So to make sure that you keep loading that during the in-season is definitely a big aspect of our program.
Your role with the Clippers is something that's very important to the players, but fans generally don't have an idea what your program is all about. As they're listening and learning some things here, let hockey fans know a bit about you, a little bit of information about how they can see what you're doing online, and if they have some questions, they might want to come meet you personally.
Yeah, so about our company, we started about 5 years ago, and we've evolved quite a bit since then. Back 5 years ago, we used to actually rent out the Dover Bay school gym and just, with a couple football guys, couple hockey guys. So we've evolved. We moved from a 1,200 square foot studio in Lanceville to a new place on Bowen Road, which is about 4,000 square feet. We just moved here last January, and our company's basis is, I would say, about 80% athletically minded. However, we definitely do range into the general population training standpoint. I believe, and our theory is, everybody deserves to be treated like an athlete. Everybody body is you know, it needs to be loaded. It needs to be treated well. It needs to be moved. It needs to have mobility. So we do a lot of, adult training, not just, from a athlete standpoint, but yeah, so we've evolved quite a bit, and we're located on Bowen Road. Our website's primesportperformance.com, and feel free to give us a call or email anytime if you're interested in doing some training or some rehab.